Okay, so in the last session we discussed about how to change permissions. What are the symbols used to change permissions? So one is symbolic, that is read, write, X, R, W, X, and octal. Oct means 8. So here 8 symbols will be there. Next, what is the form or syntax of this change mode command, chmod command? And what are the different options and modes available? Okay, so we discussed about this in the last session. Okay, how to change file permissions and directory permissions. Okay, fine. So in this session we'll discuss about user mask. Okay, so here what is user mask? Actually, when you create file or when you create directory, we know that some default permissions will be applied. Okay, so from where these default permissions will be taken? Okay, so these default permissions are set, or we can access what are the default permissions using this command umask. Umask means user mask. Here in this command, u is nothing but user. Okay, so umask, this command can be used to see the default permissions, to see the display default permissions, or we can also set our default permissions using this command. If you say only umask, it will display the default permissions. Okay, so here we can also set the default permissions. If you set some default permissions, those permissions will be applied to a file or directory. Okay, fine. So before going to see this command, first we will see what are different masks available and what is the meaning of this mask. Okay, see here the masks available are 0 to 7, only 8 symbols are there. Okay, I'll show you that. So here mask, okay, so here mask symbols available are 0, okay, 1, 2, 3, up to 7. So what do you mean by 0 mask? 0 is nothing but, okay, all permissions. So for generally for directories, okay, so the default permissions are read, write, execute for all three groups, like user, group, and other users. And for file, default permissions are 666. Okay, so that is nothing but, what is 6? It is nothing but read and write. So these are the default permissions for files. okay, by default. But as a user, depends on the user, there might be different default permissions like for directories and files, okay. But generally these are the default permissions in Unix operating system. In Unix operating system, if mask 0 is there, it means the default permission. What is the default permission for directory? 7, and for files 6, okay. So here 0 means that is the default permissions, okay. So here 0 means the default one will be applied here. If it is 1, okay, here for directory permissions will be 6. How this will be calculated, that we will see, okay. So for if it is mask is 2, then the default directory permissions will be 5, okay. Next, if it is 3, directory permission will be 4. If it is 4, 3, 5, 2. If mask is 6, then directory permission will be 1, S. If it is 7, it will be 0. Now, just by seeing this, you can assume or you can guess how this default permission based on the mask, symbol or value, how this directory permission will be calculated. It is very simple. 7 minus 2 mask value. Okay, if mask is 4, 7 minus 4, that is 3. Now directory permissions will be 3. What is 3? We know 3 is nothing but write and execute. Write and execute. What is 0? None, no permissions. If mask is 7, then directory will not have any permissions. So directory will not have any permissions. 7 minus your default one is 7. 7 minus 7, 0. So if mask is 7, then the directory will not have any permissions. Okay, fine. If mask is 6, then the directory will have one is for execution, okay. So then the directory will have execution permission, okay. So we are talking about one set, okay. Suppose if the mask is something like, see, I'll show you here. You mask, suppose 737, then here 7, that is first, owner directory permissions will be none. Next 3 means group, this mask is 3. Then group, for the group directory permissions are 4, that is nothing but read permission. So for the group directory permission is only reading, no writing and execute, okay, fine. We'll see all this, okay, we'll see this example, okay, fine. So here mask 5 means, if you are applying mask 5 means the directory permission is 2, 2 is nothing but write, okay. Next to 5, 5 is nothing but read and write permission, 5 is nothing but read and write. 4 plus 1, 4 is read, 1 is execute. Yes, oh, it's not right, it is execute, okay. So 2 is nothing but 5, read and execute. So next one is mask 1. If mask 1, then directory permission will be 6. 6 is nothing but here read write. 6 means 4 plus 2. 4 is nothing but read, 2 is nothing but write. Okay. 7. Okay. If you are applying mask 0, that is nothing but your directory will have all the permissions, all the read, write, execute, all the 3 permissions, okay. So how to find, based on the mask value, how to find the directory permission. How to find the directory permission? It is very simple. Your default value minus mask number. Your default value minus mask number. Okay, so that gives you your directory permission. Okay, for mask 2, 7 minus 2, that is 5. So 5 is the directory permission. Okay, fine. So next to files, here the calculation is somewhat different. Okay, but here I'll show you the file permissions based on the mask value. Okay, so for one also the permission will be 6, and for mask 2 the permission is 4, again 4 here. Okay, next to 2 2 0 0. Okay, so these are the file permissions based on your mask 6420. Okay, 6420. Okay, if it is mask 0, your file permission will be 6. Okay, if it is 1, then your file permission will be again 6. If mask value is 2, then your file permission will be 4. Mask value is 3, again 4. If mask value 4, then file permission will be 2. We know what is 6. What is 6? Read write, right? Next one, read write. Next to 4, only reading. Here also same, reading. 2 is nothing but write permission. 0 is nothing but none. Right? Cool. Okay, now we'll see the mask combinations. Okay, so here how many masks are there? Total 8 are there. Okay, we'll see some combinations. Mask combinations. Okay, if mask is first let me clear this. If mask value, suppose you are applying like this. Suppose you are applying like this. It should be small case. Okay, if you are applying 0 0 0. Okay, so 0 means this will be the, so default for directory 7, right? 777. For file 666, right? If you are applying 0 0 0. Okay, so for first 0, what is the directory permission here? For mask 0 7, so that's why 777. Okay, so if your mask is say suppose 0 1 1, so then for first 0 7, right? For 1, what is the directory for this mask 1? What is the directory permission? 6. So 6, right? So next again 1. So for this one mask, what is the directory permission value? That is 6. So again 6. So this is your directory permissions which will be applied if your mask is 0 0 0 1 1. If your mask is 0 0 1, if you are running this command, the directory permissions will be this. And what about this file permissions? What is the value of file permission for mask 0? That is 6. For 1, again 6. 1, again 6. So these are the permissions which will be applied for this mask value 0 1 1. For 0 1 1, file permissions will be 6 6 6. For mask value 0 1 1, directory permissions will be 7 6 6. Okay, right. Suppose if your mask value we are taking some combinations, right? So how many combinations will get for 8? Simple, 2 power 8. Okay, 2 power 8. So those many number of combinations will get. Okay, so we are not going to see all those, but we'll see some sample. Okay, 022. Okay, 022. Suppose if you are taking this, okay, then what will be the permissions? For 0, what is the directory permission? 7. For mask 2, what is the directory permission? 5. See here, for mask 2, the permission is 5. Next, for mask 2, again 5. Okay, 5. So what are the permissions that will be applied here? For 7, user will be first, suppose I am saying that this is directory, so D. For 7, read, write, execute. These 3 will be applied. Next to 5 means, what is 5? Read and execute. So read, no write, okay, execute. For others, again 5, read and execute. So read, yes, read hyphen execute. So this will be your directory permission line. So for this, you can see, for 7, first user permissions. Okay, before that, first symbol is directory or file. Okay, so this is directory, so D. Next to, for 7, read, write, execute. Next to, for 6, what is the value, what are the permissions for 6? Read and write. Read and write. So there won't be any execution. Okay, so these are the permissions for group. Next one is other users. Other users 6 means read and write. Fine. So these are the permissions. Here we are seeing something less. So these 3 are user permissions, right? So these 3 are group and these 3 are other users. Okay, might be based on the symbols. You are seeing some difference here. Okay, fine, good. So we have user, group and others, right? We are good. Fine. So 777 means first symbol is your like file or directory symbol, that is D. 7 means read, write, execute. For group, same, read, write, execute. For others, same, read, write, execute. Good. Okay, so next we will see some other combination. So before going to see that, we'll write down the same for files also. Okay, so first, what are the file permissions if the mask is 022? For 0, the default one is 6. For 2, what is the mask for file permission? So for mask 2, the file permission is 4. Okay, so 6, 4, 4. Okay, means, so this is a file, so hyphen 6 means read and write. So read, write, no execute. Okay, hyphen. So next to 4, 4 means only reading, file will be read. So read, no write and no execute. Okay, so next to again 4, for other users only read, no write and execute. Okay, so these are the permissions that you can see here. These two are combined. Let me write it again. Okay, fine. Next, 666 means for mask 0. Okay, 11. These are the file permissions. 6 means read and write. So here first symbol is file or directory symbol, that is hyphen. 6 means read and write. So read, write, no execute. Okay, so this is for user. Next group, only read and write. Read, write, no execute. For others also same, read, write, no execute. Okay, see how we are going to, based on the mask value, how we are getting directory permissions and file permissions. Okay, based on the mask. Okay, how to set? Using this command. Fine. So for the same, okay, so I'm going to copy paste this. So these are the permissions that you can see for file. Okay, if your mask is 0, these are the permissions that you can see for files, and these are the permissions that you can see for directories. Okay, we'll see one or two, okay, more for better understanding. We'll see one or two more. Okay, if your mask is suppose 007, okay, so 0 means 7, 7. Again, next one is also 0. Group 1 also 0. So 7. For 7, 0. See here, if you want, you can see this chart. For mask 7, the directory permissions are 0. That's why here I am using 0. Okay. Now see the permissions, how it will be. First letter is D. Next to 7 means read, write, execute. Read, write, execute. Yeah. I need to change these also. Right? Okay. I need to change these. For execute, the symbol is X, not E. Okay, good. So here read, write, execute. Next again 7 for group 7 means read, write, execute. Next 0 means other users. Okay, other users don't have any permission. Why? Because the mask is 7 here. This is 7. Mask 7 means directory permission will be 0. Okay, so that's why other users don't have read, write, execute permissions. See, we'll see for files. If mask is 0, what is the file permission? 6. So 6, 6. For 7, what is the mask here? That is 0. That is 0. We'll write down the symbols. 6 means only read, write. Read, write. So first user have, owner has 6. Okay. So the owner can read, write, no execute. Group read, write, no execute. Others 0 means no reading, no writing, no execute. So these are the permissions which will be applied if your mask is 007. Okay, fine. Next we will see one more 077. Let us see what will be the permissions. For 0 mask, directory permission is 7. Okay, so here 7. For 7, mask is 0. So 0, 0. Okay. See, directory D, 7 means read, write, execute. Others, no permissions. Sorry, a group, no permissions. So no read, no write, no execute. Others, no read, no write, no execute. Okay. So these are the permissions for directory. And file, coming to file, for 0, file permission is 6. So here 6. For 7, file permission is 0 here. For mask 0, file permission is 0. So here 0. So this is file hyphen. So 6 means read, write, no execute, and others group no permission. So no read, no write, no execute. Others no read, no write, no execute. So these are the permissions. And next thing is, if you observe these permissions carefully, see, first let us check these two. Now if you see this directory permissions, the directories has complete read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. All the three sets means owner, group, other users. Okay, so here also see, if you see this one, owner, group, other users has read and write permissions. Okay, so these kind of permissions are nothing but public. So these are public permissions. Let me write down this. Why? Because all the three has these permissions, read and write. If you have read and write, then that is nothing but some kind of global permission. Okay, but here all the three sets has these permissions. Even if you see the file also, RW, 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 here in this case also RW, means user has read write, group has read write, other users has read write. So that's why these kind of permissions are nothing but public. Okay, so if you use any of these two, those two allows the users to read and write the files. Unix is file system. Okay, so intention is not main executing the file, modifying file, editing the file, doing some file system, okay, operations. So here the users, group and others have read write permissions. So these are nothing but public or global permissions. Okay, so this is public permission. And next one is, if you see this one, okay, here in this directory, except the owner, others do not have write permission, right? See here, group doesn't have write permission. Here other users does not have write permission. You can check the file also. Owner has write permission, but group does not have write permission, others does not have write permission. Okay, so that's why this is write protected. Your file is protected from others to modify the file, edit the file, write the file. Okay, write into the file. So this is nothing but write protected. See, users, first you can check the directories. Okay, directory owner has complete. Okay, no problem. But group and others do not have write permission. So as well as file also. Here group and others do not have write permission. That's the reason this is, if you apply this mask will apply write protected permissions. Write protected permissions. Okay, fine. Next one, 007. If you see this one is, see this one here. Only suppose you are working in a project, you and your group has read write execute for a directory, means you can create files and directories, your group can do the same. You can modify the file, your group can do the same. Okay, so you can run the file as well as your group can do the same. Okay, so here also you can read the file as well as your group can read the file, and you can write content as well as your group can do the same. Okay, so this is nothing but project private. Okay, so you are working in a project and you have some team. Okay, so all those present under some group, and whatever you can do, your group can also do the same. So this is nothing but project protected, right? So whatever you can do, your group can do the same, right? That is the reason we can call it as a project protected. Okay, so next one is private. So this is completely private. Completely private means your group or other users do not have any permissions. You have complete rights on your files or directories, but your group or you other users do not have any kind of permissions. It is completely restricted from reading, writing and executing. Okay, so this is nothing but private. Okay, so generally these masks you can apply. Okay, I mean these are the useful masks, okay, which we can apply. Okay, so how to apply the mask? Using this umask command. U means user, user mask. Okay, so based on this mask value, the permissions for directories and files will be applied. The permissions for directories and files will be applied. So these are the default, you can set your default permissions using this command. Already some default permissions are defined. Generally, when you are creating, when you are working in a project, okay, when you are working in a project, you will be having some instructions like files should have these permissions and directories should have these permissions, and some special kind of files will be having these kind of permissions. So based on that, you can set the file permissions using change mode command. Okay, but these are different. These are not your general file or directory permissions changing. That you can change using the change mode command, but this is the default one. This is the default one. When you create the file will be created with the default permissions. You can create any number of files. I'll show you one example. See here, I'm going to our working directory, CSR. See here, there is a file test.txt. Here this file has these permissions. Okay, if I might be these are changed, not default one. Okay, these are changed. We applied some change mode commands. Let me create one file, vi samp1.txt. This is some sample file. Okay, right. I'm going to save this. Cannot open file for writing. Wow. Why? The reason is simple. Might be when we are checking with change mode commands, we might be changed this directory permissions. Let us go back to home directory of this and check what are the permissions. For the CSR, there is no write permission to all. There is no write permission to all. Yes, we are the owner. We can change. I am going to apply all read write permissions to all. Okay. Now go to this directory. Now create file samp1.txt. Oh, umask command, right? Good. Save and exit from vi editor :wq. W means save, q means quit. Right. Now see the permissions for this samp1.txt. So these are the default permissions. Based on this, can you guess what mask was applied to this directory, or what mask was applied? Okay, so here see this file permissions: read, write, execute. Read, write, execute is not there, so the mask might be 0. Okay, for group, same, read, write only. Read, hey, no, yes, for group, read, write only. So read means 4, write means 2, so 6. 6 means mask will be 0, right? So here only reading means 4. For 4, only reading. For 4, mask will be, what will be the mask? For 4, 3 or 2. 3 or 2. Okay. So for mask 3, read permission will be 4, and for mask 2 also same. Okay, right. So this is the mask applied on this. So these are the default masks. Okay, let us check whether this is 3 or 2. This is 3 or 2. How do we cross check this one? How do we cross check this one? Based on the directory permissions. Based on the directory permissions, you can check. Right. We'll again come back to this one by creating one directory, mkdir space some new directory, new dir. I am saying that new dir. Now let us check the permissions of this directory. See, read, write, execute means this is 7. For directory 7 means mask is 0, right? Next, this is also read, write, execute means 7. Reading is nothing but 4. Writing 2. Okay. So 4 plus 3 plus 1. Sorry, 2 plus 1. Okay. So write 2 and execute 1. Okay. So this is 7. 7 means mask will be 0, and for others read, execute. For others read and execute. So read and execute means this will be 5, means 4 plus 1, 5. 5 means mask is 2. So now we are confirmed that 002 is the mask value. 002 is the mask value for this. This is the default mask applied to this user. Okay, so this is the default mask applied to this user. Now if you want to, you can cross check to the file as well. Okay, so here last for other users only reading, that is 4. 4 means either it can be mask 2 or it can be 3. Okay, now we are confirming it as a 2 based on the directory permissions, based on the default directory permissions. Okay, now this is the mask applied. Okay, currently fine. If you create another file, some new permissions will be applied or default one will be applied. Obviously default one will be applied. Suppose create one more file, samp2.txt, and check. Okay, fine. Now let us see the permissions of SAMP 1 and 2. See, whatever the permissions applied to this SAMP 1, the same permissions. Like this, if you create, see, the same permissions are there, right? How you are getting these permissions? From the default one which specified. Okay, at the time of creating the user or administrator or super user assign some default permissions to files and directories. That's the reason when we create some files, we are getting the default permissions, or default permissions are applied to the files or directories which we are going to create. Okay, fine. So like this, if you create n number of files, for all the files these are the default permissions, and for all the directories these are the default permissions. You go on creating any number of files, so you will get all the default permissions. Everything will be created with the default permissions only. Okay, now the requirement is I want to change these default permissions. I want to change these default permissions. Okay, like see, change mode, umask. First I am seeing the default permissions using this command umask. See, you got 002. It means already we checked, right? Already we checked and we confirmed that 002 was the default permission applied. Okay, fine. You can change this default mask using the same command by specifying the mask value as parameter. mask value as parameter. Okay, so to display the default permissions, you can use umask command that will display the default permissions applied for directories and files. And to change the default permissions, you can use the same command but mask value as your parameter, right? So here I am saying that 022. What is this 022? We discussed. It is write protected permission. It is write protected permission. Means your directories and files will be protected from group and other users. Your files and directories will be write protected from groups and other users. But as a owner, you have rights, complete rights. Okay. So that's why I'm changing this permission, this default permissions to 002. Yes, this is applied. Now let us create one file and check whether these permissions applied to files and directories or not. These permissions applied to files and directories or not. So we changed the we applied 022 mask to files and directories. We set the default permissions as like this. Okay, we'll check whether these are applied or not. First, let me create this file vi samp3. This samp3.txt file we are creating after changing the default permissions. After changing the default permissions. Right? Good. Now let us check the file permissions of this samp3. See this? Only user has read write, others have only write permission, read permissions. Now your file is protected from writing. So other users or group cannot write your file, cannot modify the file. They can only read the file. They have only read permission. Let us check whether the same is there or not. We are copying this one. Let us check here. I am pasting that. See, both are matching or not? Is exactly matching. Okay. Now let us create one directory and check whether the permissions will match with this or not. Okay. mkdir, here I am creating one directory using mkdir command, and here the directory name is dir2. So this dir2 is a directory which we are creating after changing the default permissions. After changing the default permissions. Yes, created. Let us check the permissions, directory permissions of this dir2. So these are the permissions. Let us compare these with this one. Okay. See here, user has read write execute. Yes, user has read write execute. Exactly, we'll get the same only. Why? Because this mask is applied. Okay, but just we are verifying. Okay, so here owner has read write execute, others has only read and execute, group also read and execute. Fine, the same we got. So this is about user mask. User mask. What is user? What is user mask? User mask is nothing but the default permissions. In simple words, default permissions. Okay. So how to change these default permissions? Using umask command. Using umask command. U means in this command, U means user. Okay. So using this umask command, you can display the default permissions which are applied, as well as you can set the default permissions. You can set the default permissions. What do you mean by default permission again? The default permission means when you create a file or directory, the file or directory will be created with some default permissions specified. Okay, so those permissions you can set using umask command. Those permissions you can set using umask command. Okay, fine. So generally this is admin kind of task. As a developer, we don't work with this. Okay, so it is a kind of admin task. Okay, so admin, suppose he want to apply some default permissions to this group. These are the permissions to this group. These are the permissions to this group, or some kind. Okay, so this is admin related task, not the developer task. As a developer or as a owner of the file, will use change mode command to change. Okay, already default permissions are there, but as per my requirement, I am going to change my file permissions or directory permissions. Okay, so that I can do using change mode command. Okay, but this is also good. Okay, right. Next topic, that is changing the ownership and group. This is the last topic in this chapter that will continue in the next section. Okay, so in the next session we'll continue with changing the ownership and group. Okay, so how to change your ownership? Okay, means how to change your group. Okay, that we can do using change mode command, chmod. Okay, sorry, change ownership. So this will be for, yes, change ownership command. So this command is used to change your ownership. Change your ownership. That is nothing but changing from one group to another group. Changing from one group to another group. If you observe this, see here owner is same and group is also same. Okay, owner is same and group is also same. In the next command, we will see how to change this group. How to change this group. We have so many groups, right? So we'll check and we'll change groups. Okay, we'll continue this in the next session. Thank you.